In this video, I am going to share with you 5 traits of highly intuitive children, or as many people call them, psychic kids. In the past 5 years, I have been working with parents, intuitives, professionals, all in the hopes to find resources for highly intuitive children, specifically because I had some of my own. Currently, resources are really slim, or you really have to dig to find them. I found that in the beginning, I really didn't have the verbiage, and I had a hard time knowing what I was looking at or grasping of what I should be searching even. So I'm hoping that at the end of this, you will have some more words and things to look for while you're on your journey with your own highly intuitive child. I have one disclaimer. I do believe that all children are intuitive. However, I do believe that their abilities vary greatly. There are far more traits than simply these 5. Children, just like adults, may show these traits or may show none of these traits. It would be ridiculous for me to say that a child must exhibit these traits to be considered highly intuitive. However, I do believe that this might be a good place to start the conversation. One last reminder, I am not a physician, psychologist, doctor. I'm a parent with a significant amount of experience in this field of highly intuitive children. So with that, let's get started. Number 1, your child experiences extreme overwhelm and is constantly considered overly sensitive. And when I mean extreme overwhelm, I'm talking about we're experiencing a lot. Like, you have to evacuate the grocery store. They're having an extremely hard time being in school. Parties, you're ending up leaving parties. They just are so overwhelmed to the degree that maybe they even disassociate. They don't have to necessarily, but that can be a component. Not only when we end up having to leave these situations, that they end up having to really take a long rest to decompress. They either conk out, they go in their room, they have to check out. It takes a long recoup time. We're not just talking small children, yes, small children, but you'll even notice that in these extreme overwhelm situations, that the children may be considered old enough to be able to pull themselves out of it. Another thing with extreme overwhelm is it doesn't have to be an overstimulating, overwhelming situation like the grocery store or school or parties. They may be experiencing this before bed and finding that they need to shower or are overly hot or need you, like they cannot have you not be there. Okay, number 2, wanting to go home when they're already home. Often highly intuitive children will say, I want to go home, especially in these extremely overwhelming situations. And oftentimes parents don't have any idea why they are saying that. What I've been taught in this situation is this is a very common thing to say for them, and them feeling as if there is another place in which that is easier than Earth, because Earth can be a very dense and heavy place, and home is somewhere else. Not necessarily a place on Earth. It may be another dimension or another place in time. Sorry, I've been a little distracted because the animals at my house are now magnetized to me because I'm doing this video. Number 3, recalling historical events that, not that they shouldn't know about, but you can't really figure out how they know about them. And this may come in the form of memory of something that happened in World War II, that happened for us. Having visions, asking questions about that when they're very young. Also to having memory of something that happened before they were born. So maybe it was a conversation you had with a parent or something that you've never spoken to them about. or for them having a memory of a place that they once lived and they knew something about it. In Barbara Carlin's autobiography, she is the alleged incarnate of Anne Frank. She discusses her going to the Anne Frank house and recalling things that were once there and that the museum person ended up having to validate for them, not intentionally. And also in this part of the story, she also experienced extreme overwhelm. So there's two things. Number 4, parent-child telepathy. This was a big signal for me. What ended up happening is that our children will either end up mirroring emotions that we are purposely holding inside, asking us about our traumas, or not even mirroring, speaking about it. Their feelings are the same as yours, even though they have no reason to be. They may also be letting you know what you're thinking word for word, or they may be giving you things that you were looking for that you hadn't discussed with them, or asking why you were thinking about somebody who you've never told them that you were thinking about them. So you would feel a direct connection from your mind to theirs. For me, it felt super overwhelming that I couldn't even have my own thoughts, but that's for another day. But this is an example of a trait. And the last one for today is number 5, seeing spirit or sensing energy. I have a hard time with this one because it's the only one currently that's really depicted in the media. For instance, is that children are, in order to be considered highly intuitive, that they are mediums, that they are communicating with, spirits of the dead. That does not only clarify you as a highly intuitive child. Many children do not see with their eyes these spirits. Many of them can sense them around, whether it be they're avoiding a spot in the room, or at nighttime they're seeing shadow figures, which is actually pretty common for a lot of children. But it goes much greater than that. So that's why I'm adding sensing energy into this one. Seeing spirit is not the only trait that clarifies for a highly intuitive child, and it kind of is the only distinguishing one currently that parents are using to when they finally go to seek help. If they believe that if their child isn't seeing spirit, that they're not highly intuitive, and that is by no means, let me clarify this, the only trait. We can go into deeper with this because it can be greater than that. Fairies, angelics, and we could talk about more with understanding bedtime and the children that cannot stay in their room at bedtime alone. And yes, that's a common thing that happens in childhood, but you'll find that it really carries on much further into the older years where they don't really grow out of it. So we can talk about that further, but that is one of the traits. So with that, those are the 5 traits for now. I will be releasing more videos. If you are looking for more information about highly intuitive children, I have a podcast called A Mother's Intuition that you can find it at anywhere podcasts are at. You can find me on Instagram at A Mother's Intuition, and sometimes on Facebook, but Instagram's better. And yeah, I wish you all the best of luck and have a great day.